Monday, September 22nd, 9 a.m. I'm Jim Check with Now Media. With me, Ian Burns, managing editor. Isn't it the first day of fall, or was that yesterday? When's the first day of fall? Today or yesterday? When's the equinox? Is Ian frozen there? I believe he's frozen. Do you want to try again, or do you want to see if he comes back? We're live and everything's streaming though, right? What's that? Yeah. Yep. Sorry about that. Having some technical difficulties as we get going here. So let's get the headlines though. Carney sticks his neck out. Canada, the UK, and Australia recognize Palestine. Poilievre calls for Antifa to be recognized as a terrorist organization. Charlie Kirk, a birth of a revival. And money and brain power flee Canada. Liberals partying like it'll go on forever. Canadian struggle is real. And Joly, we trust the science. We're just waiting for Ian to try to get back in here. But he said he's been trying, so I'm not sure what's going on here. Any luck there, Rommel? Anyway, the first thing up, Mark Carney recognizes the state of Palestine. And that's going to be distracting. We can't get him back in here. There we go. He's back.
Wow, how rude.
Apparently, somebody didn't want us to talk about this again, right?
All right, let's go.
So yeah, Carney, the first thing I did is Carney recognizes the state of Palestine. Notice the spelling there.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, what's that about? I don't know. Maybe they took the English, the British declaration, and just changed a few words.
They almost dropped simultaneously as well. So whoever works
France Today apparently.
Whoever works in that department there forgets to change a couple of the. They recognize that there is a difference in the Canadian language versus the British language. Anyway, Carney really sticks his neck out, though.
Yeah, well, sorry, I just have to say, you said recognize the state of Palestine. The problem with this has always been, what's the state of Palestine? What is that? What is that thing? Can you point to it on a map? I mean, you can point to the general area where it is, but what does it look like? What are its borders? You know, who are its leaders? It's like
no currency, no government.
It's very, very dodgy.
No borders, no nothing. And then also, this wasn't run through Parliament. This should say Carney recognizes the state of Palestine, because this wasn't even run through Parliament. Because they did try to run it through Parliament in the past, and it failed.
Yeah, and he's done it without really much of a mandate. He won a minority government, but a minority is still a minority. That means most people didn't want you in power. So now what? You know, it's he's not exactly done this with the backing of the Canadian people. Certainly not in any sort of democratic sense.
Melissa Lantsman coming out with rebuttal here. In the short term, reckless decision destroys Canada's credibility, shreds the international rules-based order, and abandons the Western values once proudly defended. I mean, it really is troubling that he didn't run it through Parliament. You'd think something this big, you know, Canada being one of the first to recognize it, and Canada's not a big player in the world. Canada's, especially when we're going through all these trade tensions with the United States, this seems odd for sure that it wasn't run through Parliament. And Parliament's in session, so no excuse there. He could have just done it today, run it through Parliament.
But I think the Tories came out. She is obviously a Conservative, Melissa Lantsman, anybody that doesn't know. They've come out with an extraordinarily spineless response, which didn't say anything about the state of Palestine. It just said something about Israel protecting itself. Like, just really flimsy garbage that they should be ashamed of having written and published, I think. But what they don't mention, or at least I don't think, does she mention this here? No, she doesn't mention it. In a statement that they put out, they kind of alluded to it. But she doesn't mention that this is about internal politics. This is why Mark Carney has done this. He's done this for his own. He's done this for the Liberal Party, as you said. He's done it for himself. Well, he's kind of done it for the Liberal Party, hasn't he? He's done it because the Liberal Party increasingly now relies on not just Muslims who tend to be very pro-Palestine for obvious reasons, but also the very active activist factions of the left. This has been something that they've obsessed about for decades. So this is just red meat to his own crew, and it's a shame, really, that that's not being called out more clearly. I'm trying to read her statement as we speak, and I'm not seeing that she's mentioned that anywhere. This is just cynical. It's cynical from the Liberal Party. This is an attempt to bolster their own people and fend off the NDP and fend off the Greens, who are also quite fanatically pro-Palestine.
Interestingly enough, though, here's a map here showing, this is from CTV, showing the countries that have recognized Palestine. There's the ones in the light yellow there. And so it's Canada, the UK, Australia, and now France. All those countries, their governments are in trouble as well. I mean, Keir Starmer, not exactly sitting in the catbird seat there in England. Neither is Macron. Australia obviously having its own issues, and in Canada.
What else do they all have in common? They're all liberal left. The governments in charge of all of these countries are liberal left. And it's the liberal left coalitions across the West that feel obliged to give something to Palestine. I say Palestine as if this is about Palestinians. This has got nothing to do with Palestinians, really. This has got to do with people in Canada, in Australia, in France, in Britain, within the Labour Party, within Emmanuel Macron coalition, within the Liberal Party. That's what it's about. And it's about holding back the likes of the Green Party and the sort of threat from the Green and Red coalition, as they're called. That is the sort of that's what's happening here. That's what they're going for. That's the objective.
In the UK, they had that massive rally there, led by Tommy Robinson. In France, there's massive protests going on. I'm not sure what's going on in Australia in that regard. Canada, I mean, they squashed that trucker freedom convoy there, and there hasn't been a lot of rallies since then, but people still remember that one. And then
but also think, what are the other rallies that are going on in those countries and in this one? They're the pro-Palestine rallies. Yeah. And that's who they listen to. Whereas a lot of people look at them and see a frightening mob and all kinds of like ethnic resentments and all kinds of like almost something like the Bronze Age. That's what some people see with those Palestine rallies. But the Liberal Party, the Labour Party in England and so on, they see, oh, this is a risk. Like these could come and topple our position. They could take our position as being in control of the left here in this country. So we need to do something about it.
Warren Kinsella there comes out and says that this may have been a bad move. The recognition of Palestine state is one of the fruits of October 7th, and that's from a senior Hamas terrorist leader there.
He's right. He's completely right. One of the few occasions where you'll see an Islamist terrorist telling the truth. That's completely accurate. The idea that Palestine would be recognized as a state by Canada, Australia, France, and Britain, and all the rest of it is impossible to imagine on October the 6th, 2023, that would happen in a couple of years. It seemed decades away, if it was ever going to happen at all. It seemed so far away, because what's not being mentioned here, I feel like the Canadian press don't even know this, but the organization that is being entrusted by Mark Carney here and the rest of these countries to oversee a democratic Palestine is the Palestinian Authority, run by Mahmoud Abbas, who's nearly 90 years old. He's been in power for, I don't know, it's about 20 years. It was supposed to be 4 years. He was supposed to have elections all those times, and he's just said, oh no, we have to delay them. We can't do them. So he's basically a tyrant. He lives in the West Bank. God knows how much money has been stolen by that organization in the West Bank. And this is also the organization that celebrates the murder of Jewish children. It teaches children that it is great to be a suicide murderer and to murder Jews. Like, undoubtedly a racist organization. This is the one that Mark Carney has said, all right, he said, they got through to us. They've been sending us messages and they said they're going to reform. Therefore, we're going to recognize them. It's just all over the place. And the only way to understand this is not as an act of foreign policy, but as an act of domestic policy. And that's what it is. This is purely 100% domestic policy.
Donald Trump reaction there on Truth Social. And we figured that was going to come. I mean, Canada doesn't have a lot of political clout in the world. I mean, especially when you add the UK. It surprises me that the UK did it just right after that meeting with Trump. That one surprises me. France doesn't surprise me. In Australia,
They were already planning that, though, the British.
no.
It was just a coincidence, I think, a poorly timed, a poorly arranged calendar by whoever it was that arranged that state visit, because the British were planning on doing it at this point. So, but the British have done it. I mean, I doubt many people know about the sort of nitty-gritty of British politics, but the Labour Party in Britain is under a lot of pressure now from its Muslim bloc. It's controlled the Muslim vote in Britain for many years now, and it's starting to peel off. And it's starting to go to the Green Party. A new party has just been founded, which is basically Islamist coded. It's almost for Muslims. It's for Gaza. They're terrified that they're going to lose their Muslim vote, and if they do lose it, they cease to exist as a national party. So it's existential for the Labour Party, and it's a similar story elsewhere. I mean, in France, it's even darker than that, where they're talking about very respectable senior figures in France talk about the prospect of civil war involving Islam. So this is just an attempt by the French, by Macron, the technocrat, to kind of, put out the fire a little bit. And obviously it's not going to do that, but that's what he thinks it's going to do.
Poilievre saying enough is enough, calls for Canada to follow Trump's lead and declare Antifa a terrorist organization. Chances of that happening are probably slim to none here in Canada.
Organization seems like the wrong word. That is something I agree with. And that's the kind of bog standard lefty argument against this is, it's not really an organization. That is true. It isn't really an organization. It's like cells. It's almost like, you have Islamist terrorism, or you have white nationalist terrorism. You could also say you have kind of Antifa, if you want to call it terrorism or violence. It's almost like a theme rather than an organization with, with a head and a vice president and all sorts of things.
And then more in the terrorism stuff. Morrissey cancels show after Canadian man accused of posting death threat on Blue Sky. I thought Blue Sky was a place of love. Apparently not, eh? So the English pop star has canceled 2 of his shows in the U.S. after allegedly being targeted with a death threat by an Ottawa man. The 26-year-old man from the nation's capital has been bailed after he was alleged to have threatened to shoot former Smith singer in a post on the left-wing social media site Blue Sky.
Have you been on Blue Sky lately? I know not many people have, but if you go on there, you can see that a post like that would be very much at home on that strange website.
The only blue sky I want to see is the one right behind me here. Blue sky of the Okanagan Valley. And a beautiful day in the Okanagan, by the way. And no smoke. No smoke for the first time in a long time. No smoke in the air. It's a beautiful fall day in the Okanagan. I did ask you, what's the day of the equinox? Is it today or yesterday? What was the equinox?
It's today.
Today, there you go. First day of fall. And I think fall is the most beautiful time in the Okanagan here. Beautiful day.
Yeah, I think I was looking at some pictures from Yukon earlier today, and it looked extremely beautiful. So I think it's safe to say Canada in general, really. This is Canada's best season, I think.
I do agree. The big celebration of life happened in the United States yesterday in Arizona there as they recognized Charlie Kirk. A lot of people calling it a revival. Not a lot of comments from a lot of the politicians, but Dr. Leslie Lewis did make a comment here. And we're going to play this clip here from Erica Kirk here. This is just a small portion of what happened yesterday.
That young man. On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That young man, I forgive him. I forgive him because it was what Christ did in his.
That surprised a lot of people.
Yeah, it shouldn't. I mean, if you know anything about Christianity, that shouldn't surprise you at all. But a lot of people, I mean, the majority of people, I think, in the world now seem to know nothing about Christianity. So it did come as a surprise to that lot. But I mean, what was also not a surprise to me was Donald Trump saying, "Nah." But that is also very Christian, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's and all that. Caesar
Yeah,
comes up and says, "You can forgive him if you want, but I'm going to punish him."
Trump's speech there right after Erica, and he basically said that I can't, and but a lot of people gave that a standing ovation. Like the crowd there, that the place was packed, and they filled up another arena, and then there was the crowds outside. I mean, some of the people saying it's a couple 100,000 people there. I mean, it was packed, and there's a lot of a lot of people spoke. Trump's whole cabinet was in the front couple of rows there. Elon Musk showed up, and Elon Musk put this tweet as well. I think you can go back one there.
King James Bible. She was quoting the King James Bible. Now Elon's quoting the King James Bible.
And then
quite interesting.
Just a small clip of how big the crowd was here. You get the idea. I'm sure there was a lot of coverage on the Canadian media outlets on this. I just have yet to see it. I haven't seen it yet. So
far right rally in Arizona, maybe.
Yeah. There was a quick interview with Elon Musk here. Just like let's listen to Elon here.
Well, Charlie was someone who believed in dialogue, in open debate. He was a man of ideas. He spoke eloquently. He basically never even raised his voice. He was a man of peace. Mm-hmm. And now he's been murdered in cold blood.
Did you know him personally?
Yes, of course. We met many times.
How was he like?
I supported his organization. I supported Turning Point from quite early.
Why was he killed?
He was killed because his words made a difference. Because he was showing people the light, and he was killed by the dark.
Elon also had his children in attendance, and he also met with Donald Trump, and they shook hands. And that was because Charlie Kirk asked for that. He said they need to get back together.
Interesting.
And he did it for that.
Yeah, very interesting to me, and you get that by using the word revival, but very interesting to me how prominent Christianity is in all of this. I mean, considering that Elon Musk and Donald Trump, neither of them are really religious, I don't think. My impression is that neither of them is. But Christianity still has that power, doesn't it? And it's hard to imagine this happening without Christianity. And that is, to be saying that now is fascinating.
Yeah. It's been an awakening for many people that have kind of suppressed their religion. Do you know what I mean? Like they kind of like put it away because they seem to get attacked. J.D. Vance also made a statement. He said, he's always believed in God, but he's never really talked about it publicly. He said he's talked more about his faith in the last 2 weeks than he's in his whole career. And I would say the same for myself. This has made people examine their core beliefs. And but if you look at the reaction from these people, it's a reaction of like a better path tomorrow, as opposed to violence, right? This wasn't a call to arms. It wasn't like we need to go after people. It was the message from Erica Kirk was, I don't know how you argue with it. Even Van Jones was on CNN and broke down. Because him and Charlie Kirk would go at it, but the day before he was killed, Charlie Kirk reached out to him and asked if he would just come and if the two of them could just dialogue peacefully together. Sad world.
Yeah.
There's lots on the internet if you want to go watch that. It was a very moving, touching, lots of powerful speeches as well. And again, hopefully there's a healing point there somewhere too. Hungary has criminalized assistance to illegal migrants, prohibiting aid, food, and legal support under the new Stop Soros law. The odd thing is George Soros, Hungarian.
Well, kind of. I mean, he left. How old was he when he left? 12 or something. But yeah, I guess that's his ethnic origin for sure.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, he's Jewish Hungarian, isn't he? And there's a bit of a weird. There's complication there when you look at the modern Hungarian political landscape. But it's quite interesting. This, I mean, anybody that's followed the migrant crisis in Europe in any detail will know that NGOs and activists play a fundamental role. It's impossible. The whole thing is impossible without them. And that's what this is, obviously. This is an attempt to remove that feature of the migrant crisis.
George Soros in the centerpiece of funding many activist organizations, and many of them violent.
I mean, he's spent an enormous, unfathomable sum of money on his political pursuits, but at the same time, he has been extremely successful. It's remarkable how successful he's been, actually. And I think even his opponents acknowledge that.
One of his successes was trying to bankrupt the United Kingdom.
Yeah, he made several billion from the British people, didn't he? Ruthlessly exploited their stupid exchange rate.
So the guy that speaks about how he's there to help the poor basically shoved a bunch of Brits into poverty. Good job.
But like a lot of people who operate in the market, his justification there was, that was your fault. You're stupid. I just took advantage of what was there, kind of thing. But it is true that he adopts that moral perspective when it comes to something like that. But when it comes to things like how we should treat murderers and violent offenders and so on, he seems to adopt a very different approach, doesn't he? It's not really consistent.
It almost seems like, if you were a cynic, you would say he kind of like funnels money into like chaos, like to breed chaos. If you were a cynic.
Yeah, well, like I mentioned earlier, his Jewish origin. I don't know if he refers to himself as a Holocaust survivor, but other people do refer to him as that. I think his whole motivation is whatever was going on in Europe in the 20th century needed to just be undone. There needed to be a revolution in Europe so that something like the Holocaust could never happen again. That's his justification. But obviously, I mean, a lot of people look at what he's done, the kind of things he's done, and if anything, he's made the possibility of a pogrom or some kind of genocide more likely, not less likely.
Pierre Poilievre pointing out something that's pretty much obvious. If you watch this show especially, you'll know this. The capital fleeing from Canada. And he's just putting on a stat here. 67% of tech startups launched by Canadians last year are located outside of Canada, double the share from a decade ago. Carney hands the U.S. our best companies, taxing and regulating away our most heroic inventors, innovators, and entrepreneurs. And I do that show Beyond the Ballot with Renee Merrifield. This is very common knowledge that capital is fleeing Canada because of regulation, because of taxation, because of the uncertainty here. And it's just, if you're a tech startup here, like, unless you're living off corporate welfare, which some do, live off corporate welfare, like, some of those EV startups, that's all corporate welfare from the Liberal government and the NDP. And it just horrific. And I don't know when this changes. But again, we're just going to put this thing up here just so people understand this is Canada versus the United States. This is, when they talk all this nonsense, they just show them this here and just ask, what is this? Those tech startups, when they're looking at that too, they look at that and they say, why? Why would I invest here?
Yeah. Well, there are so many reasons, aren't there, that brought this about. But having an uncompetitive tax regime is not really
And also
going to
liberals
solve
look at
anything,
they,
is it?
the,
Frankly,
the liberals look at it as just like, how do we tax them more? Because look at how money their policies. That's all they look at. Is anybody that has a couple bucks, they want to take it out of their pocket for this. Look, and here's Anita Anand and LeBlanc partying like it's 1985. You know what I mean? Like, that's all we get. They just completely tone deaf.
yeah, it's not. It's just not a good photograph, is it? Either.
As they
That doesn't
jet
help.
off everywhere, telling Canadians how great they have it, as they jet around the world on your tax dollars. And here they're in New York right now for the 80th. That should be an explosive session there, because it's in Trump's backyard there. They're at the, this is, obviously the Palestine thing is going to be front and center at this General Assembly.
David Eby has also just announced that he's going to New York to try and sell clean power, BC's clean power.
Wind?
So it's a party in New York.
Is he going to try and sell wind to Donald Trump?
I think probably he's going to try and sell minerals and things like that. I don't think there's many people in New York are going to want to buy, or how they would buy wind. I don't know. Don't know how that would be possible.
And for everybody that still watches CBC and CTV, fed a constant diet of how it's Trump's fault from David Eby and from Doug Ford and from Mark Carney and the rest of the Liberals. Here's just a reminder. Trump didn't let in millions of third world criminals into Canada. Trump isn't responsible for Canada's massive deficits and high taxes and housing crisis.
Are there millions of third world criminals in Canada? Does this guy know something I don't?
That might be a great exaggeration there. But
I think so.
But also, Trump didn't suppress our natural resource sector either. And then this is from the professor.
Yeah, I mean, the Americans have certainly been blamed in part, haven't they, for sponsoring environmental activists very cynically to come up and disrupt Canada's natural resources industry. But yeah, it's not really Donald Trump's doing.
The food professor puts this out too. We saw Doug Ford there pouring out the bottle of whiskey, and then we just saw Mark Carney there in Mexico with the wheat bags that were just a photo op. They were just stickers. They forgot even, again, I don't know who's working for them, but they forgot the French part of the sticker. Remember, all the labels have to have both? But they put the phony stickers on the wheat bags. You don't ship wheat in bags and by train, you know what I mean? Like, it comes in a car, right? But they had bags of wheat on the platform there, like it was how Canada was shipping wheat to Mexico. And then they forgot to even put the French sticker on there. So if I was the Quebec police there, I would be going after them for forgetting to label that correctly.
I wouldn't worry for a minute about that. I'm absolutely certain that they will be on the hunt as we speak.
And then also the photo op there too at the housing. Remember the housing announcement? That was like a facade as well. They tore that down right after they put it up there for the cowboy facade. There you go.
Yeah, it's all an illusion, isn't it?
But hey, what's not the illusion though is a peak there on the plane there as they party like it's 1985 on your tax dollars.
That picture is just it cracks me up just looking at that picture. It's like it's the least cool group of people that you could ever spend time with, isn't it? It's like, imagine they sent you that picture and they like jealous ? You just be like, no.
They should put underneath, this is how the elites party. Sucks to be you. It's too bad you can't buy groceries. Marie Antoinette, wasn't she like that, partying like crazy?
Let them eat cake. Yeah.
We can't even get cake. Champagne says Canada is putting the house in order, and we can be the supplier of choice for Europeans. Open the bubbly. Champagne reckons Canada could become the supplier of choice for Europeans now that the country has put its house in order. We put our house in order. Did you know that?
What I didn't know was the extent to which Champagne was willing to have a go at Trudeau. Everybody's sticking the knife in now, aren't they, in subtle ways to good old Justin.
Yeah, he said they redesigned the world economic order at a speed and scale not seen in a generation. So where's the fruits of this labor? Where is it? Can you point to it? Is it the wheat bags that we see with the phony stickers? Is that the fruit of the labor? Where is it?
Did you not see Mark Carney's announcement a couple of weeks ago?
Which
All
one
those
was
great
that?
projects that he's single-handedly going to force through and build. I think he might
mean the
even
ones
build
that
them
were-
himself, actually.
The ones that were already done, you mean those ones?
But look, I mean, obviously a lot of this is just words, isn't it? But words do matter. And we talk a lot about investment, don't we? It matters a lot in the world of investment. So it's not nothing. They've given the green light, haven't they, basically, to LNG and to the exploitation of certain natural resources. Not really oil, not yet anyway, but LNG and some sort of copper and things like that, and certain minerals and metals. You know, that is something. The idea that that is redesigning the world economic order, however, I think that might be Champagne trying to impersonate Napoleon for some reason.
If you're Larry Ellison, Bill Ackman, guys like that have like a bit of an IQ, just a titch of an IQ, and you read this, does it strike confidence, or do you just think, what a bunch of fools?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I feel like some of them will be thinking, at least it's not Justin Trudeau still, because that was a really hostile regime for certain investors, wasn't it? I think it's still an open question for this government, but people will definitely be saying, "Thank God it's not him anymore. Thank God it's like trying to make money now."
It's just his clown car that's still there, Champagne.
Well, yeah, Champagne, Joly, all of these Trudeau. I was going to say Trudeau loyalists,
But I mean,
but Champagne doesn't sound very loyal here, does he?
There's no honesty in this statement. There's no honesty at all. It's just nonsense.
Yeah.
Anyway, this put out by BNN Bloomberg. I think it was part of a CP story actually. Restaurants struggle as more Canadians look for value, dine out less, and we did that story on Friday. Even in town here, 7-year story restaurant here that was featured even on a famous Canadian show is called
Food Network, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, they and says it just can't make it. The tourism down, people not dining out, crime's a reality. All these things are just adding up, and it's just becoming harder and harder for Canadians to eat out. But hey, not if you're living off the taxpayer dollar and you're flying around in a jet. You can do those selfies, and I'm sure they're not worried about how much it costs to eat out at a restaurant.
They might be a little bit worried about if they have enough chefs on staff. They'll be very concerned about that, I'm sure.
For their dietary concerns. Pierre Poilievre sent a letter to the Prime Minister there regarding the parliamentary budget officer. And he said, that there were some threats there, kind of thing. But he said, we need a parliamentary budget officer now more than ever to tell Canadians how big a financial mess you've made. It's not a very welcoming letter with what expected to be 100% increase in the deficit under your watch. Scrutinize the crooked accounting you've promised to use in that forthcoming budget. It's harsh words. Tell Canadians the truth about money printing deficits and again cause rampant inflation, food, housing. So you talk about harsh words. Those are a little harsh, and I would say, I believe that the PBO is not going to be cooking the books for Carney, but they're just going to present. I believe that they're going to do is present two sets of books, and they're going to here's the set of books for the like the investors in Canada buying bonds and that. Like here's the real books, and then for the media, they're going to give them this beautifully colored thing that like Rosemary Barton and them are going to unleash onto the public and say how great it is and how the deficit's not really that big. It's all about investment. So if we just look at, I can almost parrot it for them right now. Okay, so the investment part of the budget, we have to separate that. We have to separate that out. And then we just look at the operational budget. And this budget is actually more fiscally responsible than the prior administration. How much you want to bet dollars to donuts?
But the great crisis is, look, they do this all over the place. When I was a wee lad in Britain, in London, they do the same thing there. The budget and the budget announcement is like a P.T. Barnum speech. It's a load of bollocks. It's absolute nonsense. But the British media have more about them, generally speaking, I'm sorry to say, than the Canadian media, that they see that and then they do what a journalist should do. They translate that into reality when they type it out or when they speak about it. Unfortunately, in Canada, or at least the CTV, CBC, and a couple of others, they hear that, and the Canadian press as well. They hear that or they read that and then they go, okay, right, copy, paste. There you go.
Or even better,
So,
like the CBC will actually promote it and actually add to it, add color to it. Like it's
they'll
like
well, they'll actively defend it, won't they? They'll
yeah, they'll
operate
come
as
out
like
and they'll just like
sentries.
they'll have a panel on there and they'll talk about how great this is, and like nobody since like the worst economic crisis of our time. And here's Vasi, one of the better journalists in Canada, sitting down with Pierre Poilievre and trying to. I mean, they're kind of setting the table so like to make Poilievre look like the bad guy when the budget comes out a little bit. Let's listen in.
Do you think it's fair to pin the blame? And I understand contrasting, for example, what's happening versus what they said they would do. But do you think it's fair to pin entirely the blame, for example, for that exodus of investment on this government's actions? We have never faced a U.S. president that has leveled the kinds of economic threats that he has against our country. He has specifically targeted investment as a cause for that, saying, I want investment to come to the United States. That's part of the reason I'm doing this. Like, is it not normal that companies would then follow suit when they're faced with that threat? Is it fair, really, to put all the blame at the government's feet?
You know what I think is fair? Let's hold Mr. Carney to the standard he set for himself. He said he'd have a deal with Trump by July 21st. Still no deal. He said that he would put elbows up. He put elbows down. He said he could handle Donald Trump, and all he's done is make concession after concession on his own economic decisions. Mr. Carney said he would spend less. His deficit spending is 100% more. He said that he would bring more investment, and we've had a record exodus of investment since he became Prime Minister. And finally, Canadian business leaders through the Business Council have said that Mark Carney's regulations and red tape are actually more damaging to the economy, even more damaging than Donald Trump's policies. And that's why, despite Mr. Carney's promise that he would make us the fastest growing economy in the G7, we're now the fastest shrinking economy. And
I'm surprised he didn't state the obvious there, which is investment in Canada was already looking pretty bad before Donald Trump was elected, before he even said he was going to run again. So clearly this can't be explained by pointing to the orange person. That's not a satisfactory answer.
And the super obvious one to me would be Vasi. Where's Brookfield? Where's Brookfield? And where's Mark Carney's investments? You're a leader. If you're the leader and you're asking Canadians to buy Canadian, where's the leadership? Just show me the leadership.
Well, it's a bit like telling people not to fly on planes and consume less to save the planet while you fly around on planes eating caviar.
I think Mark Carney has flown more than probably Trudeau in what the few months that he's been on vacation than Trudeau did. You know what I mean? Like in a couple of years, that's all he's been doing is jetting around. He's been to Europe 3 times now. He's been to Mexico.
New York right now.
Yeah. And then like Melanie Joly, if anybody, like this is the poster lady for striking confidence in anybody that listens to her. Let's listen to her and she's a scientist, I think.
We're sending a strong message today. Canada's ready. We're ready to produce here at home. We're ready to protect our people, and we're ready to lead on the global stage. And while some countries turn their backs to science, Canada will invest in and believe in science, because science saves lives.
Well, we could probably...
Gee, I wonder who she means there when she says some countries turn their backs on science. Is she talking about Venezuela, do you think? Saudi Arabia, maybe? Lots of sub-Saharan African countries that whose leaders still believe in witchcraft and things like that. Is that who she means? Or does she mean the United States, the dead center of world science, the greatest producer of science since the English, dare I say?
And it seems like the Joly and the rest of them find every opportunity they can to stick a stick in the United States' eye. the country that we depend so heavily on. And there she is trusting science. I can tell you most Canadians likely don't trust the science anymore. And you know what, Joly, I bet you could hire Dr. Fauci right now. He is the science. We should probably get him up here, give him a huge contract.
Well, what's that word in front on the the dais that she's standing at there? I think it says Moderna. Is that an American company by any chance? It's the stupidity of it. And it's just so cheap, isn't it? It's so cheap and kind of like catty, isn't it? It's kind of like, it's almost like spicy words over cocktails or something like that. It's just like, stop being so stupid.
And I
like,
bet you
get serious, get real.
I bet you the reporters didn't ask you about the VAERS department there that was given $50 million to help people with vaccine adverse effects. That $36 million of that was taken by the administrator of the program.
Got to feather the nest.
Eh? What's that?
Before you can lay some eggs.
Pretty impressive. I guess that's the science, right? They figured out the science of money. But hey,
the science of easy living.
It pales in comparison to the $472 million that they took over 2 years to administer the dental program. That's not for the delivery of dental benefits. That's for the administration of Trudeau's and Singh's, or the Liberal dental program. 400, almost a half.
I would say in a roundabout way, it is for dental benefits, isn't it? That lots of people will be getting very, very good dental benefits from the jobs that they work, the jobs and the contracts that they work that come from that pot of money. So it's been great for people's teeth, just not the people who need it.
I mean, as a Canadian, have they had enough yet? Well, they jet around. Look at that picture of them flying around. None of them with the reality of what's actually going on in Canada. Big announcement coming today, though. Promises to be. Trump played it up yesterday and said this is going to be the biggest announcement in health in his lifetime. And they figured out what's causing autism, because it used to be, according to some of the stats that are put out by RFK Jr., 30 years ago, 1 in 10,000. Now it's 1 in 12 and 1 in 10 that kids developing autism. And that this announcement is supposed to be huge. But I'm sure Joly is going to be there with the science. She'll be there with the science.
Apparently they're gonna. I've seen the stories already suggesting that they're gonna link Tylenol to using Tylenol when you're pregnant, when a woman's pregnant, linking that to autism, which is that's an unusual one. I think doctors generally say that it's safe, don't they? But that I know it's going to be very, very controversial anyway.
Yeah. But those stats.
RFK looks like Senator Palpatine there, doesn't he, in that picture?
You know, it's kind of a contrast there. RFK spoke at on Charlie Kirk there. I don't think he spoke yesterday. I don't know if he did. I may have missed it, but he has spoke. And then he is, one of the most famous politicians in the United States was assassinated as well, John F. Kennedy.
His uncle and his dad both murdered.
A lot of the Kennedys. They were definitely a target. Sean Fraser, the cabinet proposes to ban the swastika as a terror symbol. It only took 80 years. There you go. But it's not a blanket ban. It's also just
kind of like, who the hell is waving swastikas around? When's the last time I saw a swastika was when some strange individual brought one to the Truckers rally, and Justin Trudeau started saying they're all Nazis. That's the last time I saw a swastika.
You mean that swastika that showed up for about an hour and happened to be fortuitously trailed by Trudeau's own photographer happened to be Johnny on the spot at that same time? How fortuitous, eh?
But I just feel like we're not exactly oppressed by swastikas, are we?
And the guy had a mask on, and everybody was telling him to get out of there. And yet CBC portrayed it as that was basically a Nazi rally.
Yeah. Nazis, man. I remember speaking to people at the time, otherwise intelligent people who were saying to me, oh yeah, like that Nazi rally. It's like, Is that how easy it is? You know,
Well, it is.
if you don't like some sort of protest, just take a Nazi flag down there. Apparently, that's all people need.
And then the government union did an anti-protest against the Freedom Convoy. I remember that one. The guy with the bullhorn walking, he's screaming, chanting, getting everybody fired up, was actually carrying a hammer and sickle. That's okay. No,
that's about
CBC,
social justice, though, isn't it, Jim?
no CBC stories on the hammer and sickle. Nobody seems to know about Stalin.
He's a social justice warrior, and that's what people are trying to tell you.
Somebody should explain it to the millions of people that were dead after Stalin. Maybe they didn't understand that they had how big of a role they got to play in that.
I mean, there's plenty though. There's obviously it was ridiculous, but somebody came up to Chrystia Freeland with a flag associated with a fascist or
Nazis.
neo-Nazi group or something in Ukraine. And she didn't really get much abuse for that. She got less abuse for that than Pierre Poilievre did, because he walked into a trailer, if you remember, and a tiny little bit of graffiti next to the door in the trailer was associated with some group that people don't like.
There's no bias in the media in Canada. None. So here's the CBC. CBC must be more forthcoming explaining its purpose and news gathering, says the network ombudsman. The direction came in complaints of bias over CBC's news coverage of gender identity programs in public schools that only featured LGBTQ guests. Imagine that, CBC bias, the ombudsman says.
I mean, that's just one tiny aspect of their bias, really, isn't it? It's also any question of politics, any question of morality, any question of anything, really. They only bring in the people they like.
You know what they should do?
For a very long time.
People should be able to tick off if they want to contribute to CBC or not. There needs to be a referendum on who wants to contribute to, and just make it that. Or like you say in the UK, if you want to watch television, you got to contribute, because everybody having to contribute to this for them to represent 10% of the people in Canada, with obvious bias in everything they do.
Indeed, but they certainly. The LGBT side of things is it's an interesting way in to discuss this problem with CBC, because CBC obviously embodies a certain worldview, and it's a biased worldview. Of course it is, just like everyone's worldview is biased, but they present it as being neutral and objective and bang in the middle and for all Canadians. Obviously it's not, and this is just one example of where that's the case. But they also have this horrible attitude of, if you disagree, then you're a bad person, which is a kind of sin of the modern left. If you disagree with their perspectives on anything, LGBT or politics or whatever, then you must be a bad person. That could be the only answer, that you're a bad faith actor, or you're just cursed with evil or something like that.
Go look at the coverage.
A similar story in the US with a lot of what Trump did when he first got in the door. He's defunded NPR and things like that. It's a very similar story here, but we don't have as quite as energetic a government here, do we? And also, obviously, the government in power in this country benefits from that bias, so they're not likely to cut their own arm off.
Go and look at the coverage over the next few days, and look past Look at the coverage of Charlie Kirk. See who's positive, who's negative, or who's just telling the truth. Go look at the coverage of Elon Musk over time. Go look at the coverage of probably the most important tech person in the world, and tech is leading the world right now. Tech is the solution to a better tomorrow. Go look at the coverage of Elon Musk. Go look at all the companies that he does, and just go look at it. Go look at the way they portray stats on Canada. Like Canadian suffering. How many stories have we seen right now about a bunch of Canadians that can't even... 89% of Canadians are not about $200 away from meeting their monthly obligations. How many stories are being done on that?
Nobody at CBC is struggling to buy food, so why would they report on that? They don't get it, do they?
And then so here's a typical answer from a liberal or Democrat when they get caught doing something. And this is how they portray media that works the other way. Is that the wrong clip? It's too bad. Anyway, this clip here is a Democrat asking about the $7 million that she made on stock trades. Can you go find it on Steve Guest? Because it's a really good clip. You can go see if you can find it. And in the meantime, we can talk about this new H1 visa or H1B visas that Trump's going to start charging $100,000 for. Trump's, you got it? Okay, we're going to play this clip here because it's interesting.
So when Newsmax claims that you made $7 million from stock trades, what are they talking about?
Newsmax is, first of all, a very questionable organization that is paying multiple fines. I'm not sure what they're talking about.
Well, did you make $7 million in stock trades at all? Or?
I haven't. I don't believe I did, but I'd have to go see what that was alluding to again. What kind of came from.
So when Newsmax.
You wouldn't you remember if you made $7 million in a stock trade? You wouldn't remember that? Or is it just that you make
Probably
that much?
Not if I was her, I wouldn't.
If you're a Democratic politician and you just that's the you know, like, well, I made that yesterday and the day before that. Nancy Pelosi, $500 million on her meager salary. Not bad, eh? And then just like, but first thing that she did is she went after the news organization, right? First thing she said.
I was going to say, first thing she did was a fallacy.
Yeah.
Literally, like, does this woman have she probably has a liberal arts degree. Almost certainly. I don't even know who this woman is, but almost all of them do in America, almost all the political class. And in America, when you get a liberal arts degree, you have certain obligatory modules. She must have done a philosophy module. So she'll have learned about, you know, Socrates and a way to reason, like a way to argue. And right away, she comes out and just says, it's basically an argument from authority that she did, which is just like, oh no, they're losers. They don't know anything. Same thing that Mark Carney does. When Trevor Toome criticized him, I'm better than he is. Forget it. But the sad thing is, these people know what they're doing. They've been educated. They know how to speak properly and think properly. But they don't want that for the rest of the world. They don't want that for the masses and the peasants. They want the peasants to be stupid and to think, oh, Newsmax is a crap organization. Therefore, stop asking me about some wrongdoing that I'm alleged to have done. You know, it's kind of, it's just so simplistic. It's such trash.
And for the most part, they would have just let him go. But Steve there just like, so did you? So did you? and then the Mark Carney there. And she's in her head. She's like, do I lie? Do I tell the truth? They're going to find out because it's public knowledge. What do I do here? Well, well, mate, hey, anything could have happened. You'd remember.
Comical, isn't it? I've just Googled her. I have interest there. Apparently she's got a Bachelor of Science. So not liberal arts. But she does have an MSc in International and World History. So I'm not going to let her off.
Did she make $7 million? Is that disclosed anyway?
Well, she's in American politics, so probably, yeah. It does. It's an extraordinarily slimy, filthy world, isn't it? American politics. So any accusation you make about them is almost certainly true.
And it's so clean here in Canada because Stephen Guilbeault has provided all the paperwork for that green slush fund. Did you get it? Did you get it all?
Did I get any of the slush? No, I want some. I want some slush fund. I'll put a windmill on my roof.
A member of the Indian government has reacted furiously to Donald Trump's decision to attach a $100,000 fee to H-1B visas, which are dominated by Indians, claiming the U.S. is afraid of our talent. The White House, however, said that the scheme designed for highly skilled workers has been abused by American firms and has harmed workers. I mean, we hear about this in Canada, like the $40,000 to buy your way into Canada. I mean, there's lots of accusations on that all over the place. That like somebody's making money. It's almost like human trafficking. And there's that world organization, the UN, there that said that Canada is, accused of human trafficking as well. Somebody's making a lot of money on these other things, and Trump's just saying you got to pay the man first.
Well, this is. I don't know if you can remember, but this was a massive battle in the early days of the Trump presidency. I know we're still in the early days, but the very, very early days. And Elon Musk came out. He got a lot of flack. Do you remember when he came out and he said, he came out with a very childish little tweet where he was saying, like, I'll fight you to the end for H1Bs. And he's like, you've got no idea how important this is to me, or something like that. Apparently, it's not that important to Elon Musk anymore because he loves Trump now again. But there are lots of people within Trump's coalition who really like H1Bs, and they like everything it represents: cheaper labor, more labor, like almost limitless supply of Indian tech workers. But then there are lots of people who say, no, it's a stupid idea to have H1Bs. What we should do instead is train our own people, because we have computer science graduates who are unemployed, etc., etc. So this represents, I mean, he fudged it a bit, didn't he? Because it's just $100,000. Like, initially people thought it was going to be every time that you renewed them or something like that, but it's not. I think it's just the petition. So it's the first time that you ask for an H1B. It's not actually that serious a thing when you consider that, like, software engineers with not all that much experience, few years experience, earn like $300,000 in the US. 100,000 suddenly doesn't sound like that much, does it?
They're paying up to $100 million. Didn't Facebook just pay $100 million to scarf somebody up? That was the annual salary.
AI, isn't it? That's the very top end.
And that was the annual salary.
That's the very they're at the very top, aren't they? But your average kind of like computer science person that goes to work for Facebook or something like that, they'll get like a couple of $300,000 or something a year. So in that sense, $100,000 is not like prohibitory, is it? It's not gonna destroy the system. But so I feel like Trump has done this to try and say, like, yeah, I care about this, but also to the H1B people, it's like, I'm not going to completely trash it either. Like, it's still going to be there. But the reaction in India is surreal. Like, ministers in the government coming out and saying things like that, like, he's afraid of our talent. Just very, very strange little battle.
Doesn't make any sense, does it? This next chart, the finance market typically tells the truth, right? Because it tells you the flow of money and what's going on. And here's another truth for Canada. Can you see the truth?
What are we looking at here? Stock price.
Dollarama, the dollar store, doing really well. Why does a Dollarama dollar store do really well? Because people don't have any money, so the only place they go is Dollarama. Do you know what I mean? They're starting to look at cheaper and cheaper alternatives. And we're seeing that.
I'd like to see Costco on here as well.
Yeah, Costco would be doing well.
But yeah, Dollarama, it's no secret, is it? There's some other ones, like, what are the other ones? Giant Tiger. But it's hard to know, isn't it? Because they're all they tend all to be packaged into these massive conglomerations, don't they? Like Empire.
Costco's like at a 10-year high. I mean, people are joining Costco because Costco obviously is you got to buy a lot, but it saves you a lot of money, like Costco. So they're doing extremely well. But I mean, this is a bad sign for Canada, Dollarama, doing that well. It's because it's
a classic recession indicator, isn't it?
It's expired foods sometimes. Like they get seconds and different things. They buy lots of things and like lots, not lots of things, but lots of products. Like like I say, like a manufacturer has a bunch of stuff that's about to expire, so they sell that lot to discounters like this, right? And a little tip: if you're on a road trip, you're going somewhere. Here's a little financial hack for you. If you're on a road trip and you're going somewhere, and you like to eat snacks, candy, and stuff like that, like for the kids or whatever. Not that it's good for you, but like you say you're going to buy some chocolate bar and chips and all. If you stop at the gas station, you pay up to $3 for a chocolate bar. If you go to Dollarama, prior to going, I think they're under $1. They're actually like 94 cents for a chocolate bar, and it's cheaper, way cheaper. And again, not that you should be just gorging on chocolate, but I'm just saying, like
maybe something that's natural, nuts or something.
Yeah, they have nuts. They have tons of stuff like that. They have tons of snacks and that. So there are some hacks out there for sure that you can actually save some money if you need to. Because, the convenience store, obviously, it's convenient and it's there. And then people just pay it because it's painful. Yet it's like, oh, well, it's only a couple of bucks more. Like, $3. Like, think of the margin on that chocolate bar that they're pulling in on the chocolate. right? But they talk
Well, especially when people will drive to the other side of town to save a few cents on gas. Like that'll only end up being a few dollars. So if you go there and then you buy your overpriced candy, what was the point?
What was the point? Anyway, that's our show for today. Look at that. In an hour less. More informed than you will be. Well, I guess if you're watching CBC and that, you will be plugged into the narrative that's being sold right now. And you're missing out on that here.
You'll be thinking a lot about Palestine, a country that, or a place that you will never visit. And you'll also not be thinking in your head, you'll not be thinking, oh, hold on, isn't there another country that we don't recognize? A country that's a really good friend to us and produces amazing technology. A country called Taiwan. Why don't we recognize Taiwan, everybody? That might be something to investigate.
Yeah. But and more stories about, if you go to CTV and that, you'll find more stories about Jimmy Kimmel than you will on Charlie Kirk. Odd, no? I find it odd. Looks like he's frozen again. So that's going to end our show. Just like that. Ian froze out. And we're back tomorrow morning, Tuesday. And enjoy this beautiful first day of fall, September 22nd. And with that said, we'll see you tomorrow. And thank you for watching Now Media.
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.